Thank you for joining. We'll wait for some time to allow all participants to log in. Till then, couple of housekeeping checks. If you can hear me clearly, I request you to please type yes in the chat box window. I repeat, if you can hear me clearly, I request you to please type yes. Okay, I have a couple of yeses, that means I'm audible. Throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with our speakers by typing in questions and comments using the questions pane. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible in our Q&A section after the presentation. First of all, on behalf of Harbinger Systems, a warm welcome to all of you, and good morning and good afternoon. I'm Sushant Saraswat, Marketing Executive of Harbinger Systems, and your host for today. I'm pleased to welcome you for today's webinar, Mobile UX, Doing It the Right Way. Let me introduce our speakers for today's session. Smita Misal. Smita is the lead UX designer at Harbinger Systems. She has a background solving unique business challenges through innovation and technology. With her 10+ years of experience in creating multi-device experiences for enterprises, consumer products in e-learning, banking, finance, e-commerce, some domains to know. And joining us today, our second speaker, Ritesh Thakkar. He's a senior UX designer at Harbinger Systems. Ritesh, with over 6+ years of experience in UX and UI design across multiple domains, has worked on multitude of challenging projects across desktop, web and mobile applications. So without further ado, I hand over the presentation to Smita.
Thank you, Sushant. Hi everyone. First of all, I would like to share the idea why we want to conduct the webinar on the doing mobile UX in a right way is because everyone knows the UX and its importance nowadays. But there are multiple factors to involve in achieving the great user experience. And through this webinar, I would like to highlight all those factors and different aspects towards achieving the right rich user experience. So I will start with the agenda. Today we will talk about the contributors in the user experience, where everyone knows that UXD, which is user experience designer along with the UI designer, are the main contributors. But we will also talk about different contributors along with these two important contributors. The next point, we will discuss about the user-centric design and how this user-centric design approach differs from web to mobile. To achieve the great user experience in the mobile, we will understand the consideration. Then we will see different common challenges while designing the apps and development. And we will also see the mitigations or solutions for these common challenges. After doing all these things, we will see how we will be able to achieve the rich user experience in the interface. So we will start with the first point, which is contributors in the user experience. So as everyone knows that the main role or main primary contributors are UX designer and UI designer. So UX designer who gives the conceptualization and UI designer who gives the face to the interface. So these two are main primary contributors in the user experience design, but along with the UX designer, another contributor, which is a stakeholder who works closely with the UX designer from the conceptualization by giving the critical insights Stakeholder also can contribute in achieving the user experience. Similarly, developer who works closely with the UI designer can contribute in the user experience. So these 4 different roles can have their own contribution in achieving the user experience. Now we will see individual role and their contribution in the user experience, and while contributing, what all things they do. So first I will start with the user experience designer. So the user experience designer starts with competition study and market study. So here, once user experience designer gets the concept from the stakeholder, he studies the market. Then followed by market study, he starts with the conceptualization, and while doing it, user experience designer keeps mobile usage in his mind. Then comes the validation part. As we all know, user experience designer is an advocate of user. So first thing he does with the concept on paper, he validates it with the users. So validation is a critical part of the user experience. To achieve the user experience, validation with the user is a very important and critical part. While conceptualization is something like creating wireframes, and user experience designer does the main important part by defining the gestures and interaction at very initial stages, like creating wireframes. Again, the consulting is an important role. So UXD does the consulting with the stakeholder. So he helps stakeholder to take a correct approach towards defining the strategies to achieve the great user experience. So this is all about the UXD and his contribution towards rich user experience. The next role we will see, which is stakeholder. So stakeholder has the concept. He is the owner of concept. So the clear definition of the concept and requirement articulation helps every member of the team to have the exact understanding the way the stakeholder is visualizing the concept. So clear concept and requirement and articulation, if done in the proper way, it helps in the user experience. Again, then selecting the correct approach. At different stages, stakeholder always get the option, and if he selects the correct approach, this contributes in UX. The periodical review. So if you see, stakeholder gets involved from the start to end, and the periodically review gives the idea to the members that whatever they are developing or designing has a right way, the way the stakeholder is visualizing the app to be done. The third important role is the visual designer. We called it as a UI designer as well. So he or she is the person who gives the face to the design. So giving the face to the design is visual designing, and while doing it, one has to remember the mobile real estate. So every time he or she has to consider the mobile real estate. While designing the interface, again the critical factor of mobile is tappable area and spacing in between. By considering that, visual designer can have value add. Then visual designers should not restrict themselves only to design, but he has also he should also test it on the different devices to check actual interface. So by doing all these things and considering different artifacts of the different operating system and device standard, visual designer can have his side of contribution in the UX. Then comes the developer. So till now the concept came to the wireframe, and after wireframing, visual designer gives the face to it. Then the developer comes into the picture who gives actual life to the design. So how developer can contribute in UX? So developer, if he goes beyond the coding thinking, then he can understand the user and he can have his own contribution towards UX. And to achieve the great user experience, one has to remember the latest styles and trends. To achieve the latest styles and trends, developer has to have the research, continuous the research and development, so that he will be able to achieve the, he will be able to contribute in the UX. The third point is developer is a person who can see the feasibility and the problems which can come in the later stage. So the forcing the feasibility is also main important point, which we will see in depth in the later stage of the presentation. So all these roles can have their contribution towards achieving the user experience. So while trying to achieve the user experience, the another critical factor is user-centric design strategy. So now we will see how the UCD is different from the web on mobile. And in this, I will request Ritesh to continue with the example. He will explain us how the UCD is different.
Thanks, Smita. As we all know that web and mobile are the two grooming factors of technology. In a similar fashion, the user-centric design strategies also differ for both of these. One of the prime factors for which the UCD differs is the interface or the real estate available for web and mobile. So for web, even for the minimum resolution, plenty of real estate is available where we can design lot of customizations, we can play with the content and prioritizing the task. Whereas for mobile, it is necessary to start with smaller screen, prioritize the content, task and design according to the form factor. So the next factor that affects the UCD strategy is the design principles. So for web, we use different principles such as Z principle, Z design principle, F design principle, and for that we design according to the visual hierarchy and appropriate placement of certain elements and widgets. Whereas for mobile, we need to keep the quick functions and the prioritized tasks near to the tappable area or target area that is shown in the image in the blue color, which lessens the motor load on the user. One of the factors which makes a difference to the UCD for web and mobile is the architecture. For web, the architecture is defined based on task priority. And as we can see in the image, we can have different colors and graphical elements to guide user attention and catch his eye. Whereas for mobile, it is based on the scenario. Primary tasks are placed upfront and secondary tasks are funneled down in the secondary menu. So as we can see in the image, in the first image only 3 main tasks are placed up front and the secondary tasks are placed in the burger menu. Next factor is the navigation. For web, we can have a detailed navigation with graphics and all the options up front. Whereas for mobile, we need to combine it under a certain category and then a quick search to reach directly to the target. As in the image it shows, for the mobile version, it has given a search bar and then all the options are categorized under a single tab. So context is one such factor which makes a difference in the UCD strategy. For web, the situational or environmental consideration is secondary, which makes a minor difference to the goals. Whereas mobile devices are designed in such a way that they can be used anywhere and at any time. So the context, the environmental factors, these all affect the design and the placement of elements, widgets, and the designing of interface. Next is the task flow. For both web and mobile, task flows are precise and up to the mark. In web, we can have a detailed task flow where user can have options which he can select to skip and go directly to the final one, or he can go through all the tasks. But for mobile, we need to keep task flows more precise and directly to the point. So as we can see in the image, for web we have 4 steps where user reaches to the target at the 4th step, whereas for mobile he can have instant search at the home page, and at the 2nd tap he can reach directly to the target. In a similar fashion, the UCD strategy changes for web and mobile. For mobile, the UX designer needs to consider certain gestures and design the interactions for them. Next is the orientation change factor for which the designer needs to design according to landscape and portrait as the user changes the position of the phone. Third are the operating system constraints. For certain phones, they have only one single button which makes all the functions, whereas for some mobile and some devices, they have 3 or 4 and some have keypad also. So the designer needs to keep in mind all certain factors and then design accordingly. So a visual designer also needs to keep in mind the anatomy of devices. Today in market we have a large range of devices from iOS, Android, BlackBerry, Windows, and new companies blooming in. So the anatomy of these devices changes from one phone to other. So a visual designer needs to keep in mind all such factors such as the navigation bar, content area, placement of toolbar and all. Similarly, the resolution changes from a small screen mobile to tablets and phablets which are ranging to full HD devices. So the compatibility of designs and other graphical elements should be considered at this point. Also, the element or the target buttons should be designed in such a way that it should combine all types of fingers. It should be compatible with all types of sizes of fingers, for fat fingers, for slim fingers. So these were some of the prime factors for which create a difference in the UCD strategy for design and mobile. So Smita has already explained the roles and responsibilities of all the persons involved in creating a rich user experience. While doing this, we come across many challenges and opportunities. To overcome this, I would request Smita to explain us how to mitigate the common challenges.
Thanks, Ritesh. So, in the common challenges area, I will talk about the challenges which I am sure that many of you have already experienced. I will start with the very first, which is very common challenge, is break journey of gestures from wireframe to visual design. So what it is? Generally, gestures get defined in the wireframe stage, but when it gets transferred to the visual design, we see few gestures are missing. So I'm calling this challenge as a break journey of gestures. So I came up with some solutions which we have implemented internally in the Harbinger, and I found that that is very useful, which I can share with you all. So how we can mitigate this kind of a challenge is, while we do the wireframing, we should include the gestures, and along with the gestures, we also should add the annotations, which are description of those gestures. So clear gesture definition in the wireframes along with the annotation makes it very clear to everyone along with the visual designer. And all these wireframes should be at cloud at one place, along with all the review, comments, resolutions, and discussions around the comments. So this way, we can avoid the break journey of the gesture, and we can have a direct journey, which is like whatever gestures are defined in the wireframe, we can see it in visual design as well. So this is the first common challenge and the solution to overcome that common challenge. Then the second common challenge which we see is losing on the interaction and animation, which got defined in the visual design, but while transferring it to the development, we lose on few interactions and few animations. So why this happen and how we can overcome this problem? So when the visual designer defines or visualizes some interaction or animation in the visual design, he should add the reference website and the app and hand over it to the developer, and he can give the walkthrough of the reference sites, and he can also document those reference sites which he or she is visualizing while introducing the interactions and animation along with the visual design. So this way we will have the smooth journey of interaction and animation from the visual design to development. And while giving the walkthrough, designer can use simulators. So simulator tools are the tools which gives you actual experience of the interactions and animation. So for example, I am saying the POP app, which can be used as a simulator tool to give the simulation effect of the gestures and transition effect experience. This is about the second challenge which we face, and the solution to that challenge is sharing the website and apps, reference apps, along with the use of the simulator tool for walkthrough. The very next challenge is it has three phases to it. So the challenge is we see the implementation of the visual design in partial, or the definitions which happen in the wireframe and visual design get partially or differently implemented in the live application. The second point is feasibility issue, which comes into the picture at later stages, and the gap in visual design, wireframes and functional app. So the image inserted is talking about the last point, which is a gap in visual design, wireframe and functional app. So few elements are missing in the live application. If you see few elements and few functionality are missing. So all these 3 points are interlinked to each other. That's why the common challenge is the common resolution for all these 3 challenges. So we will address each one of this with the solution. So if you see why all these things are missing is because there is a gap. There is gap in communication, and there is less communication, we can say. So how we can mitigate these 3 challenges? There is only one solution to all these 3 challenges. That is collaboration. In collaboration, we all understand the collaboration is required. But when, for what and how? So the collaboration is required at different stages of the process. For what is bridging the gap between all the roles who are involved in this process, and how we can bridge the gap by conducting different meetings, giving the walkthroughs, annotating and documenting every gestures and interaction, and taking the balanced decision. So this is the way all 3 roles can collaborate. All roles can collaborate and have a seamless experience, which is conceptualization. So to explain this collaboration and when, what and how, I will like to show you the process stages. Here the conceptualization starts with the creating persona scenario and task flow, which is a primary duty of visual user experience designer, and the stakeholder is also involved in validating those persona scenario and task flow. So this is the first stage. I will explain you about the main role who is involved in that particular stage, and next part is how we can add few more roles and have a collaboration at different stages. So the second stage is where the conceptualization is done through the wireframes, where the user experience designer is the main role. Then comes the visual part of designing, which is like giving the face to the application, which is done by the UI designer. The next step is validating the visual design and wireframes with the users by conducting the usability study, which is the primary role of the UX designer. And then comes development part. So if you see, this is a very brief process stages. It has a detailed stuff, but just to understand the collaboration and its stages, we are just showing you the brief process stages. So these are the stages and these are the primary roles. So now we will see how we can collaborate. At very initial stage, when UXD is working with the stakeholder and visualizing about the user and how user is, what are the user's expectations and how the task flow will be, like how the task will be done by the user. So in that initial stage, we can have the collaboration of UI designer, because UI designer is also an advocate of the user, but to have the UX designer vision same as a UI designer, we can have a collaboration in this phase where UI designer can have contribution and a better understanding of the user. So this will avoid the break journey of the gesture. So whatever is getting defined initially get transferred to the UI designer. Similarly, wireframe is a main role lies with the UX designer. But while creating wireframes, UX designers focus is more on the functionality, on the standards and the user expectation. While UI designer is a creative person who can have a collaboration with the UX designer and who can introduce the creativity part at a very early stage. So this collaboration is also very important to enhance the user experience. The next part is a visual design, which is solely owned by UI designer, but along with the UX designer, we can have a clear understanding and cross-verification and review where UX designer can make sure that whatever is defined in the wireframe is getting achieved in the visual design. So this collaboration is important at this stage, and you might wonder what developer is doing in this particular stage. So this is the stage where developer can get involved in feasibility check. So at very early stage, the feasibility can get studied and can get validated. So this will avoid the feasibility issue which comes into the later stages. And again, like developer, if gets involved in at early stage, this will give the clear understanding to developer what kind of visualization is getting done by the UXD and UID along with the stakeholder. The next stage is usability study, where the main responsibility lies with the UXD, but once the usability study is done, the output is something which is important for all these three roles. Like UI designer can have his takeaway from usability study. If he wants to have few iterations in the design, stakeholder can understand what kind of feature he or she has to provide, what is the user's expectations, what he can take in the phase 1 or phase 2, or what can be the priority. Whereas developer can see how user is having, how user is expecting the functionality part. So all these three roles plays an important role in the usability study in terms of collaboration. And of course, when all this, the journey of visualization, right from the wireframe, gestures, definitions, everything is getting passed to the visual design very clearly, and visual design is converting all these things and conveying all the gestures and interactions very clearly and smoothly to development. Developer is implementing all those things in very right way, the way it got defined. Then to validate it and to check it, the UXD and UI designer can play an important role in a collaboration at the stage of development. So this way we can resolve all the problems, all the challenges which we have discussed till now. So the collaboration at different stages with different role, we will be able to handle the UX processes in the right way to achieve the rich user experience. So now, till now, we have talked about different parameters of how we can have collaboration, how we can have different role contributing in it. So, and UCD, how it differs from mobile to web and web to mobile. So after doing all this background work, the main important thing is we want to achieve the rich user experience in the interface. So till now we have seen the contributors, UX consideration and challenges mitigation. Now we will talk about how we can achieve the rich user experience in the interface. So we need to understand the different parameters in the rich user experience of the interface. And to understand this, we need to see few examples. So I would like to request Ritesh to show us few examples so that we all will understand the rich user experience and its dependent parameters.
Thanks, Smita. So to achieve rich user experience, there are a lot of parameters which affect the design and the usability, out of which we have chosen 4. So these 4 are interaction between different elements, gestures used, animations, and the using inbuilt functionality. So the first one is interaction. For interaction, one of the new trending parameters is using the layered interface. As we can see in the example, elements which are not in use are placed at the background and the current one is placed up front. In the second mobile image, we can clearly see elements which are not in use are blurred out, whereas the focus remains on the current middle one. Even the breadcrumb menu also slides from a left side and the image remains at the back. Layered interface uses the Z-axis, which gives depth and 3D look to the interface, which makes it more appealing. Next one is gestures. So today in market we have lot of gestures where smartphone devices support up to 10 finger multi-touch support, out of which some of the trending gestures are 5 finger spread, 5 finger pinch, 5 finger rotate, 5 finger rotate left, right, and shaking the device to change the options. Few of them I have shown in the example, where in the first image the user can tap to select. Second, if he swipes to left, he gets 3 options for the same subject. For the third image, if he swipes to right, he gets a burger menu where he sees lot of secondary navigation. The third factor for rich user experience is animation. To support the gestures in a more better way, animation is essential. This enhances the gestures and also gets user to immerse in the experience. This also keeps the users intact with the application by having some mild animation about the dashboard, some numbers moving, or some light animation about the graphs. Next is using inbuilt features of the phone. While designing an app, if we use some inbuilt features such as mobile, social, network, and camera, to which the user is already used to, it makes it more appealing and increases the usability of the app. By using this, we can increase the efficiency of our mobile applications. So these were few of the parameters to enhance and to achieve rich user experience. I would explain Smita to give us a summary of the overall presentation.
So we have seen different contributors in the user experience, right from the stakeholder, UX designer, UI designer, and developer, and their different contributions toward UX. Then we have seen how the UCD approach differs from mobile to web. We have also seen the collaboration between the contributors. We have seen the problem areas and how we can mitigate those problem areas. And by doing all these things, along with the latest gestures and interactions, we will definitely able to achieve the rich user experience.
Wow, that was a great session, Smita and Ritesh. Thank you. I'm sure the audience too is pleased with such a rich and insightful session. Now, as promised, we have a special offer for all our webinar attendees. Get a 1% day of free consultation for mobile UX by Harbinger. I'm sure you'll all might be buzzing with excitement on what our UX designers can offer you. Please write to us at hsplinfo@harbingergroup.com to avail this exciting opportunity. We will be taking questions from the audience now. I remind you once again, if you have any queries, please type in the questions pane. If due to time constraints, we are not able to cover your questions in today's session, we will definitely send you the Q&A document covering answers to all the questions raised today. Okay. Yes, we already have questions lined up. The first question is, can a business analyst be a contributor in user experience? Smita, you want to take it?
Yeah, I would like to take it. So, a very good question. Yes, definitely user like BA, who is a business analyst, can contribute into UX user experience is because if you see a business analyst has a business vision, but the role of BA also consists of analysis and UX also does the analysis. So we can definitely, BA also can have the contribution if he or she is involved in the project. Otherwise, generally UX also has a vision of the business, or he or she can also understand the business part of the concept, but BA can contribute in the user experience along with the UX role by giving the business insights and understanding the user. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Smita. We have another question. In the presentation, you had explained the differences of user-centric design strategies between web and mobile. Does this apply to different design principles considering web and mobile UX?
Actually, yes and no, both. Because design principles remain same in the mobile UX as well as web UX, but when it comes to consideration, so the priority of the consideration of different design principles varies. Because of real estate constraints, the design principle remains as it is, but when to consider which design principle get deferred when it comes to mobile. So the answer is yes and no as well.
Okay. We have another question this is from Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use a platform such as PhoneGap or Xamarin for multi-platform apps?
Yes. Yes, this is related to technology, but yeah, we use PhoneGap, Bootstrap, and Xamarin for the multi support platform, which is like hybrid apps.
Okay. All right. We move on to our next question. At which stage should we do user validation?
We should do the user validation at 2 stages. One should be at very early stage, which is like wireframing. How we can do the usability or validations at the early stage, like wireframing, is by using different simulators. Because if we get the validation done at early stage, it helps us to have the cost effectiveness, and in the later stage we can have it before getting it to the live. So we should have user validation at two different stages, at the wireframe level and before taking app live.
Great, Sweta. We have streams of questions coming in. Definitely, it's a hot topic. The next one is, when you're conducting usability study on mobile, how this differs from web application. When you do usability study for web application, how is it different when you do it on mobile?
So the labs which are used and the screen recording tools, those are different when it is web and when it is mobile. But other than that, the normal usability principles and the way we conduct the labs, all other basic things remain as it is.
Okay. The next question we have is, what is the difference between user experience through a native mobile app versus responsive website on mobile?
So native apps has a very good hold of native features, which is like camera, GPS, and it has their own. The native app has access to the device-specific gesture and device-specific user experience. So definitely user experience is different when it comes to the native app. I will say user experience, if you want to give to the reach level, then the native app is a good option over the web. Web app has its own benefits, but those are more towards development fast, getting development fast and everything. But when it comes to the user experience, the native app gives more like rich user experience, because it has a hold of native elements, and we are able to achieve it through using the native experience with the native gesture usage.
Okay. I hope that answers your question. Okay, we have time for just two more questions. Considering the increasing number of devices and their diversity, does that pose a pressure on the UX UI designers?
I will say pressure, yes, but then we have a balanced approach towards it. Is we can understand the target audience, and also the target. We can, with the help of stakeholders, we can decide the devices which are used by our actual users or our target users. Along with that, we can have the combination of topmost used devices. So if we have a combination of both of these, then we can decide on the frame of from what device to what device we should have. We should consider those frames. So this way the pressure is there, but again we can go with the balanced approach by selecting few devices.
Okay. All right. My team is pressing me for the time. I'll just take one last question. Are there any quick tips for reducing the cognitive load of the users through better mobile UX?
There is nothing very quick in terms of when it comes to user experience, but still I would like to share few. So to reduce the cognitive load, we can have a clear interface, a very simple and straightforward clear interface. We can do it by reducing the visual clutter, unnecessary images. So this way, if a person is doing something on mobile, say he is doing some reservations, or he might be searching for few flights, then in between he gets disturbed with some other work. And when user comes back to that, if the interface is very clean and straightforward, and it is saving the state, it is giving the visual clues to the user that where he was, how he can go next. So this way we can have a less cognitive load. So the system will do work smartly. That is something a UXG can define. The smartly means he can application can save the state, application can suggest where you were before. So this way we can definitely reduce the cognitive load. And also one more important point, which is while building any app, we should go with the standard existing mental model of the user. So mental model is, I hope people are familiar with the mental model when it comes to the people who are from the UX background. They will understand the mental model, but while designing the app, we should stick to the existing mental model. That is, in simple language, the way commonly user expects their actionable at one place. So this way we can reduce the cognitive load of the users.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ritesh and Smita. As I already mentioned, we will send you the Q&A document covering all the questions which were raised today. So I request you to type in your queries, and also don't forget about the special offer. You just write to hsplinfo@harbingergroup.com with your queries, and we'll get a 1% free consultation for mobile UX. With this, we conclude today's session. I'd like to remind you all that today's webinar is being recorded, and everyone will receive an email with the link to view the recording along with the Q&A document. Finally, I request you to please fill in a short feedback survey form that will pop up on your screen once you exit the webinar. It won't take long, but will surely provide us important insights on how to improve and what topics to choose from. With this, we conclude today's session. Once again, thank you all for joining us, and have a great day ahead.